him a champion like Maokai, which he's so good on.
Yeah, and there is the Maokai taken away. Odoamne has been his signature. 8 games undefeated on it. And there's the Shyvana, another preemptive one. So I guess they're just going all out with this strategy. As the day goes on, I'd like to see how that trends. The Lulu is also banned. So far we've had same bans.
The same as before, Hecarim coming in. If H2K doesn't ban it, they would first pick it.
Yeah, being on blue side
instead. Yeah, that's should be fairly simple. There's no real reason to leave it open unless we're gonna see the likes of a Gnar from Odoamne into it. If you build Sunfire Cape first, you can outduel the Hecarim fairly easily, but
there it is.
It is being banned away. So with all these top lane bans again, we know Shen is an option for Odoamne. Up in that top lane, it worked super well in the last game. That is open for him this time around. The Anna being banned away from Rio after going like 10-0.
Yeah, that got a little snowballed out of control. H2K are going to prioritize the Gragas this time, so they will pick that up. Once again, we'll see what Fnatic do go for. They could pick the Shen if they're confident on it, but there's a lot of...
That's not a Huni champion.
Yeah, exactly. The Lissandra is kind of what we think of as the old standby, but he hasn't played it in a little while.
So if you look at Fnatic normally in this situation here, Lissandra would be a good top lane pick for them despite the nerfs. It's one where you can still make these TP plays here, and the combination of an early aggressive jungler with Lissandra is a fantastic 2-on-2 lane they can use. But at the same time, there's so many different picks they have used in the past. We normally see LeBlanc coming in the mid lane as a potential pick. Urgot is a champion that H2K banned all games against Copenhagen Wolves. We haven't seen Fnatic play it, but they had 2 weeks to practice, and Urgot has been a top tier pick in the meta for a few weeks now. I wouldn't be surprised if they played it and will pick it later, but right now, they're setting up to protect the AD carry. That is Steelback for Fnatic. That's an AD carry they normally don't build anything around.
Yeah, so we are seeing, again, a different style to the picks and bans from Fnatic. H2K now, ball's in their courts. We will see what they answer with. So they pick themselves up a jungler. They won't have access to Ryu's Diana, but there's still a lot that he can do.
Zed, Ahri, LeBlanc, doesn't even matter for him. You might...
I think you'd save it for last.
You would save
they
it.
Want to try to get him a favorable matchup, assuming standard lanes.
Yeah, Fnatic can try and do the same though. They want to see if the likes of LeBlanc gets locked in, and then Febiven can do Zed into it and have that one-on-one matchup, depending on what Ryu wants to play. I would assume they're saving it. They can go for the bottom lane fairly easily here. Any Sivir is open again if they want it. It's such a fantastic combo, especially if you can see Fnatic is building a protect our backline composition. Well, then you can go for Sivir Annie for some engage. It looks like they're saying, we don't want to give you one of the hyper carries at least, and takes it for Hjarnan. That's a champion as well that he plays really well in H2K as a team. Plays around Jinx really well because they have so much focus on fast pushing down towers. And then you have Thresh, who adds the Lantern, who adds that mobility to a Jinx now.
Yeah, and the times that they have played the Jinx on H2K, it's been a linchpin to the success of those compositions. It is rocked a 70% kill participation across the couple of games that he's played it. With the Thresh combo, I could always talk ad nauseum about how that's a good combination, and it's something that KaSing prefers. So generally strong picks from H2K. They're looking to play a fairly standard composition. We'll see what Fnatic want to do here. There's still a few very strong AD carries in the pool that they could pick up for Steelback.
There is, but if he wants a hyper carry for the late game, he's not going to have the strongest 2v2 lane, and that's always been a problem for Steelback and YellowStar. 2v2 setup is where they tend to fall behind. Now Lucian is one of these AD carries here who performs well in the early game, well in the mid game, and well in the late game. Like, he's good all around. He's not the best in either of the roles or either of the situations, but he's just good all around. And even late game with a Blood Boil, you can play him as a very aggressive, not a hyper carry per se, but close to it, at least for Steelback.
He can push objectives very quickly too. That's also important. I am curious about this Lee Sin pickup again though, because with the Nunu, you know, that's looking to be Huni's choice once again.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
They want to stick with this, but as a result, they now have a somewhat better late game than it did before, and I don't think I'd expect to see them attempting to completely squeeze out loulex' jungle, especially now that H2K knows this could be coming.
No, but the thing is, we expect Febiven to pick an assassin in the mid lane unless he wants to choke Ath again. So while your late game is slightly better from the Lucian and obviously the protection and the buffs you're going to give him now. It's not an insane late game from Fnatic, and with Jinx, and if this Cassiopeia gets locked in for Rio, H2K is running a fantastic setup late in the game where Fnatic is going to struggle in these team fights here against them. There's nothing to dive onto Jinx and Cassiopeia in the team fights. At least Shen building full tank, you're just going to laugh at him anyway. You got lifesteal on your Jinx, and you most likely have some sort of tankiness for Rio as well, who's just going to kite him around.
Yeah, this is definitely a full power composition the longer the game goes on. Fnatic have one thing to answer with, but what do they take? I feel like they're definitely going to have to try and snowball lanes.
Oh, for sure. They have to. When you run Lee Sin top lane, you gotta be able to win that lane. You gotta be able to snowball from it. Otherwise, you're not gonna do the same as a Shen in the late game by any means. Assassin mid lane here from Febiven will give him some kill pressure and more snowballing potential for Fnatic, but they're on the clock because they cannot risk going full late game against what H2K has been built up here. Double tank setup, and obviously
there it is.
Jinx Cassiopeia. Yeah, there's the assassin we were mentioning for him. This matchup, though, after level 6 is fairly tricky for Febiven because if Rio predicts his distortion, you just ulti in the direction because you cannot jump back before you reach your destination on LeBlanc. You cannot go back to a distortion play. You cannot like do it mid-air. So once he jumps, if Rio predicts that one, he just ultis, stuns him, and he wins the trade.
Yeah, we have definitely seen some pretty big Cassiopeia outplays here in Europe. See if more of them continue. H2K, very, very strong comp as the game timer will go. But Fnatic, if they get themselves in a decent situation in the early game, I don't think they have to win it hard, but if they get themselves in a lead, a decent lead, maybe a couple dragons ahead, a couple thousand gold ahead, I feel like their mid game can be very, very explosive if they just start brute forcing objectives.
Yeah, they do have a very strong early to mid game setup for them, which is the standard Fnatic style. And you run the double smite. Nunu and Lee Sin. What they are hoping to happen is that Huni is gonna win the top lane, and by pushing down that lane to the Shen, who adds 0 wave clear, you then invade into the enemy jungle. The Nunu joins you, and you can set up fantastic vision control in there, double create a stealth totem potentially, maybe a side stone, as expected from the Nunu, and then the double smite to take these objectives, take the blue buff, deny the grump and everything. So you have super good counter jungle setup here. It requires you to win the lane though with the Lee Sin.
It all depends on that. And this game loading up, guys. Don't forget to keep tweeting us. Let us know if you think H2K is going to go up 2-0 or if Fnatic is going to answer this one back. Your hashtags, of course. H2K win, FNC win. We'll tally those in a minute. But for now, we're on to the Rift again.
Well, let's see what Steelback can do on Lucian. We saw him play against Elements. It used to be his main champion. If you go a year or two back, at least in solo queue, he was spamming Lucian all day long. But he's not been very strong in 2v2 lanes unless he got his hands on Graves.
Look at
now
this.
They're going to set up a bit of a trap on Hjarnan here.
He could be in some trouble.
Look at YellowStar. He is sneaking in behind him.
H2K trying to collapse on this one, but Hjarnan, they've got him in the sights. Oh, they're going to knock him up, get the ignite. There we go.
Level 1 lantern.
Level 1 lantern from KaSing saves the life of his carry.
That's going to hurt him quite a lot, though, in terms of the early push for level 2. So H2K can decide to swap now and avoid that Fnatic bottom lane, because you cannot out-push the Lucian Janna in this situation as a Thresh. But if you do manage to get to at least the level 3 mark, you're going to be okay. Looks like H2K is going back to the lane, so not really going to be too bothered by starting with it.
They got 2 summoners out of YellowStar as well, and they didn't burn any of their own. So that is not the worst trade. Yes, it could be a rough level 1, but once they get past that point,
very true.
I don't think it's too bad for H2K.
Seems like Fnatic is looking towards the top lane themselves. So they want the lane swap so they can use this double smite to their advantage. Huni started red buff in the last game on Lee Sin. Now he looks to start blue buff and then potentially invade in like he did on this Gragas. So what they're trying to do again is get a potential 4 buff, at least a 3 buff start, where you have Reignover taking the enemy buff and then Huni just doing the grump now, so not going to invade in on anything. Will be spotted by KaSing. Didn't get the grump though.
He's a little bit low here. KaSing's chasing him through. Yeah, this is really, really interesting with the double smite situation, because in theory,
double Hunter's Machete as well.
Yeah, when you swap, normally you give up dragon control. However, in this case, when he does go down bottom, there's basically just double potential for a steal.
They're still gonna need YellowStar to be there.
It'll be difficult, yeah. But it's not as bad as a typical swap in terms of what you give up.
Right, so we shouldn't be looking at Dragon Control in that sense because you're gonna need YellowStar down there anyway if you want to stop H2K for taking like a 4-man Dragon. In this case, if you jump in to try and steal it, you'll most likely just kill yourself for it, and that's not a worthy trade. Instead, what it does offer is jungling ability, where Reignover is sitting in the enemy jungle, like we're seeing here, took 3 camps for himself, and Huni was jungling himself. He did walls, he did grums. He's starting Hunter's Machete as well, getting that additional gold. And you simply just have 2 junglers. And because you're swapped, you have way more camps than normal to do compared to a Shen who's sitting on 0 CS for Odoamne. I think he was on the top side, and then realized he couldn't stay there on his own because of this 4-man push coming from Fnatic. They would just tower dived him and killed him very easily. So that's why he wasn't sitting in any lanes getting XP or trying to do a jungle camp. Shen is not exactly the best at level 1 either doing a camp. And therefore he's been heavily denied so far.
So this becomes a 4v0 push for Fnatic on the top side. Hjarnan and KaSing, we're going to build up a slow wave to go in, and looks like H2K will do exactly the same thing. A little bit behind the 8 ball though in that case. We'll see how this one does play out. Tower should fall in just a moment for Fnatic, and their attention should turn elsewhere.
Huni's just staying in the top lane now. He's waiting for all the minions to die here, so this wave coming in now will not slowly push down towards H2K, but instead he wants it to just even out in the mid lane, and he gets a standard lane for himself now, where he once again gets quite a CS and experience advantage. H2K trying to do the same here on the bottom side, getting that tower down. So they're trading towers. The difference is still that Huni got 2 jungle camps. He's already level 3. Odoamne has gotten nothing. He's trying to get that dragon. He's gonna get it as well with 4 guys if Hjarnan could also help him take it down, but instead he wants to recall fast. They're gonna get the dragon, but the top lane is very far behind. Huni's now sitting and getting some farm as well.
And they do dash their way out after picking that one up. So taking stock of things, just shy of the 5-minute mark right now. We've got H2K sitting on dragon number 1. Both the towers, one in the top, one in the bottom, have been taken down. Mid lane's been the quieter matchup here. Not really much to say. Just kind of a couple of pokes here and there as Reignover starts taking down this blue in his own jungle. A lot of vision been invested around that river, but now the dragon's gone, not for much to there. Oh, a teleport coming in from Huni. Odoamne is going to have to back off this one.
They just keep denying Odoamne everything. Huni here, the wave is pushing towards him, so there's no freeze possible. H2K is going to try and fast push a tower instead for them. And Fnatic is going to try and mirror it and do exactly the same. You got Blood Boy, you got 4 people again on a tower, and you deny all the farm. Wait for the tower now to kill all these minions here. And Odoamne gets nothing. He's sitting on 0 CS, 5.5 minutes in. At least let the tower kill as many minions as possible, while H2K is now trying to take top tower for themselves. And that's fine. Fnatic is okay trading towers because they've still been getting XP on their top laner. H2K, nope. Another jungle camp has well been taken from Huni.
He can't get really much of anything here. So Huni, well, he hasn't gotten as much farm as maybe he would have liked. He's definitely getting quite a lot more than Odoamne. Tower goes down, and Odo is still trying to find a stray minion here or there.
And once again, Fnatic let all the minions die, grouped up the next wave when it arrives, so it hits the first minion from the wave of Fnatic, and that's starting another freeze. Steelback is sitting around it. I'm just going to see here if he's actually freezing it, if he wants to push it in. No, it's going to freeze towards him, and he's just going to try and deny Odoamne. So this wave in the bottom lane is going to push up towards Fnatic, which means Odoamne is still not going to get any farm. There's nowhere for him to go. There's no lane where he can go in and get anything. No!
He got one! Oh, cannon minion too.
There we go. He's level 2. And
that was the most necessary minion.
And then he runs away. Because now his AD carry is saying, yeah, I'm going to go bottom lane. You can't really do anything on your own. We have just taken your top tower. And you can go back to top lane and sit around and do nothing.
Well, all right.
It's the joy of being top lane sometimes.
That's what I hear. Back in the mid. Ryu's built up a bit of a lead here over Febiven. He's also got a little bit more mana in his reserves right now, but as you said, you know, past 6, it makes it a little bit more difficult for Febiven to try and trade effectively. And the summoner spell differential, I think, is going to be pretty big here with the exhaust coming in available for Ryu, who will back away a little bit as he senses Reignover, or rather sees him maybe with the pink ward. Roving through, loulex.
So what Fnatic wants to do now is keep playing around this Shen, because Odoamne is so weak that if you force fights near him, he's not going to offer anything. Huni is way strong on this Lee Sin, level 5 already. That's why they're invading on this blue buff again, because Odoamne is not going to help. He's going to sit at the minion wave, just trying to get some farm for himself, and Fnatic can now secure a blue buff. So very smart play from them. That's also why they're pushing the wave on the tower here, forcing Odoamne to sit and just farm it while blue buff went over to them. Febiven is going to get his own blue buff as well. Hjarnan is in the bottom side here, on the bottom lane. Ryu should be able to hold this wave. So the next move from Fnatic now. You cannot really push in this top tower near the tier 2. Mid lane as well. Cassiopeia offers decent wave clear at least. But that is obviously the last outer turret you have. And Cassiopeia needs at least a few hits to play the wave. So that could be an option for Fnatic if they want to push it down. It's going to take a while for them. They're not going to be able to just rush it. And by that time, Odoamne has also been picking up at least some farm.
Yeah, he has picked up some, but if you look at the counterpart here, Huni, okay, so yeah, he's 10 up, but he's got the skirmishers with his Cinderhole completed. He's going to continue to farm through this jungle. He's providing a fair amount of vision. You take a look at that gold difference between those two. I mean, that's about 700, 600 and a half differential, and they've not really met each other.
And we're 9 minutes into the game.
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty solid.
Quite a thing. And so Fnatic now, Dragon spawning in 1 minute 30. What they're doing is splitting up in 1-3-1 setups. Huni's just waiting for the wave up top. His teleport will be ready in time. And then you put LeBlanc bottom lane because she's very strong in the one-on-one, so she can push out the waves on her own. She has the mobility as well to escape if something happens down there. And then you put Lucian in the safe lane, the mid lane, to just sit and farm, nothing else. And then what you basically want to do is you want to have LeBlanc push up the wave and then roam up the river towards the mid lane, apply pressure on Ryu, and also get control of the dragon at the same time. But we can see with KaSing moving on the bottom side, he's reading this. He's saying, I know what you're trying to do. I know you want to push out the wave with the LeBlanc. We're going to deny that by being 2 people on the bottom side. We're going to push up the wave instead, and we're going to be the ones roaming towards the mid lane and the dragon to get control.
Continuing to apply pressure on this bottom side. They've brought loulex to the party as well. We'll see what they can get done. Ryu gets pushed back, courtesy of a Steelback culling, but he's got a lot of farm at his doorstep. Dragon's 30 seconds on the clock. YellowStar throws down a couple of wards as well. See what they do here. Reignover also popping some down. From the top, Odoamne and Huni about as close as they've gotten this game. Not in farm, in physical location.
Yeah, Odoamne really wants to hit level 6 before Dragon spawns. He is needing about 30% XP first. He does have the minions there, I think, to hit the mark. Huni's already moving down. He's just been farming a bit for himself. Not really being able to put a lot of pressure on the Shen because you can just push down the wave. But this next dragon here is going to be the big one for Fnatic. They have a super, super strong early setup with Lucian, with LeBlanc, and of course the Lee Sin top. That's why they want to fight around it.
They don't have to just yet, though. Waves are slowly cleared away by Hjarnan and Ryu, and yeah, Odoamne hits that level 6 mark, so he will be available for the dragon confrontation when it comes.
So this is a bit weird from Fnatic, is that they have allowed Odoamne to get back in the game. They had denied him so much farm and XP in the start that he was forced to sit on the tower in the top lane. That's where Huni could have made plays on the map elsewhere. He could have walked into mid lane. You could make a play in the Cassiopeia, force a flash, or maybe potentially kick her back. And then you have 4 or 5 men just dive right onto Ryu. You saw KaSing and you saw Janna on the bottom side. You could have made a play in there. Instead, they have just pushed a wave into Odoamne over and over. He's now 48 CS, despite having 0 at 6 minutes. And he's catching up. And he's obviously going to be a lot more useful late game than a Lee Sin top lane on this Shen here. So Fnatic has simply stopped making any plays after getting too fast out of turrets, after denying all the farm.
And they, you know, that still got answered by H2K, and they lost a dragon besides. Now, I feel like they had a small window to maybe press their edge, especially when Odoamne was still sitting on level 5. It was only about 10 seconds in between when the dragon spawned. Yeah. But they didn't even bother to try and set up for it or clear any wards out. Now they're going to go ahead and attempt to do that. I just feel like it is a little bit late. Fnatic, they've been lackluster in controlling the lead.
Starting the Dragon is not too late for Fnatic. It's more denying the farm or making a play while Odoamne was weak. That has been, you know, that gap is gone now. That time is gone. Fnatic can still force Dragons because they have this early mid-game setup that is a lot stronger than what H2K is running. A Jinx is not going to offer the same as a Lucian and at this stage of the game.
That's fair.
You got the tier stacking as well for Ryu. Not that he has a weak point in the game. He has a lot of damage all around as long as he has enough mana. But still, he wants to stack that one up before we really start seeing any big fights. So that's where Fnatic could make a play. I would just have loved to see them try and pressure the mid lane earlier.
So while they've left that one alone, Hjarnan is going to be on wave clear duty in the mid. Fnatic snatch the Dragon, but they're unable to get anything else as they rove around H2K's jungle, planting a couple wards as they go, so they will have sight of those movements for the next few moments.
That's the thing Fnatic always likes to do. They show to us, because we can see the entire map, obviously, where they want to put the focus, and we never see Fnatic try and ward the entire map at once. Like, they don't go for both the blue buff and the red buff. No, they always focus and say, okay, what's our next objective? Is it going to be the bottom lane, or is it because we want to make sure that Febiven can push up the wave and then potentially roam up the jungle to that mid game or mid lane? That is the case here for Fnatic. They want to set up a free lane for him to push down. He's already done it. Now he's gone back to base. He can go down and do exactly the same, and then simply walk through the jungle and then go for Ryu. Because if Ryu sticks to the mid lane on his own and KaSing and Janna sitting bottom lane farming, well, then Fnatic knows they're gonna be 5-man versus at least 4-3 from H2K, and then they can just dive onto the Cassiopeia, pop her very, very quickly, or at least force Ryu away from the tower, and then get some damage. And that's the setup they build up here with the deep wards.
We'll see if that one does work out for them. Well, it looks like junglers were on a collision course, but Febiven is gonna go around the side. loulex cannot break the chain. And speaking of the chain, KaSing's will go a little bit wide. loulex a little bit low here, but here comes Huni with the kickback, and that's gonna be first blood over to Febiven, and they pick up KaSing as well.
Right there, all these wards here from Fnatic paying off. There were so many teleport options for Huni, and of course Odoamne still sitting in his lane. He tried to ulti, was too late, and now this mid lane pressure comes in. Ryu is forced off the tower, quickly goes down, so Fnatic just need a little bit of time.
Oh, the Monsoon Flash! There we go, Ryu! He's gonna get ignited, knocked up, and for just a moment the Jinx Rocket will come in on Huni, but they don't have enough to take him down. YellowStar actually falls in all of that. So H2K get a little bit of revenge, but they lose out on the tower, yes.
Yeah. All these early wards here from Fnatic has been set up. They were moving down towards the bottom lane from Febiven, and when he noticed the chance to get a kill, and with the teleport as well, they got them. Oh, Odoamne missed their taunt there.
Yep. Oh, Chomper, Steelback runs onto it, and he gets hooked up on a Thresh hook. That's going to be KaSing helping out Ryu to another kill. Reignover just trying to put a little bit more damage on, but H2K now have a chance to peck off this tower. They should be able to do it.
Yeah, you got the Jinx.
No defense there mounted from Fnatic. They can't do much without Steelback at this point. And they still got a wave to keep moving.
This is why H2K really likes the Jinx. Once you get to these towers here, you melt them so fast. Even get quite some damage on this tier 2 mid lane.
Oh, they hooked Febiven too. Are they going to go in on this one? I think they are. And they managed to take him down. Odoamne gets the kill credit for that one.
The CC chain hook into taunt, into knockback from loulex. Enough to secure the kills. They have so much damage on a Jinx and a Cassiopeia. Just consistent damage. Can they get the tower as well? Looks like it.
They're melting through the Janna shield. They're melting through the tower's HP bar. Just like that, H2K secure themselves 2 towers in the middle. Now they can start roving through the Fnatic jungle and grab everything out of there. There's a mini wave on the bottom side too.
Yeah, massive one.
Not anymore, but
nice play from Steelback.
It did require a calling to make it disappear.
And H2K is saying, we got enough. There's 2k gold on Ryu at the moment, 1600 on Hjarnan. They didn't need more. They're fairly able. Let's see it again. So Febiven was on his way to the bottom lane to push it in with all these wards and then make a roam like this. He just got it very early because loulex were trying to ward. And then the TP came in from behind from Huni. Beautiful kickback here. They even blow the Shen ulti. So this is perfect. Next step is you put pressure on the mid lane because it's a 5 versus 3 situation. Ryu is forced away from the tower. And in this situation here, you don't have to make the play YellowStar is making because you're going to get the tower no matter what by him just staying around it. They go for it. Nice ulti on 2 guys. And meanwhile, TP coming in and Hjarnan, and that's everything H2K needs to start getting some kills. Fnatic still got the tower, and then we just push it all the way up here. And we look at CC after CC. We're not going to get to see, but it's like hook into trap, into taunt, into everything.
Into death.
Into death. Into Ryu and Hjarnan.
Yeah.
Having some very, very nice damage already.
So with that one, too, you take a look at the gold sitting on Ryu and you know how we know it's going to stack up later on versus Febiven. He's already built himself up about 800 gold lead over his counterpart. And it's only going to get better from him here on out if they continue to make plays like that. It's going to be even rougher for Fnatic. KaSing tries the lantern bait. Febiven does dodge out from the hook. And we're right back to it. 30 seconds on the next dragon, though, so anything could happen. YellowStar clearing away some vision here, trying to make sure Fnatic are the ones that come up with that one.
Odoamne should just hard push the top lane now. He has the Sunfire. See if you can get the wave down to the tier 2 as there's no teleport for Huni. So they know Huni's on the bottom side of the map around this dragon here. Fnatic obviously want to secure them. When you run their mid-game setups, you gotta get these dragons here. You need this 5th dragon to be a thing so you can force their late game combo into some team fights in a bad situation if you have all these dragons. Nice little hook from KaSing. And I like this pink ward from Fnatic just above the edge. Super important to set up potential flanks from them that you can jump over that wall. So Odoamne is hard pushing the top lane, as we mentioned. No teleport from Huni. H2K now should not start the dragon, just stall it. Wait around it and tell Fnatic either you start the dragon right now or you lose your top tower.
Well, they are taking option number 1. Going down very, very low, but what can H2K do? Odoamne is not choosing to go in just yet. The barrel is thrown out. Febiven a little bit of a chunk out of his health bar. loulex is going to be knocked back. Dragon still up for grabs in this one, but who's going to take it? It looks like it's going to go over to Fnatic, but the fight's not over yet. Reignover throws down the absolute zero. Huni comes in, but he eats a rocket in mid-transit. Hjarnan moving around the side, trying to pick off Febiven, but Steelback moving forward now, and H2K are starting to evaporate. Down to 2 members. It could be even more. Ryu is going to fall. That's a double kill. Going over to Steelback, the Monsoon, they'll get the ace, a triple kill, over to Steelback. Fnatic comes up with everything.
Yeah, despite H2K having some good plays just before, Fnatic still have the comp. That is so good in the mid-game here. There was so much focus on Febiven, he just kept jumping in and out of the Dragon Pit. They never got to him. And Steelback was also left on his own. That was Dragon for Fnatic, picked over by Reignover. 5 kills as well, most of them on the carries. Very important for Fnatic.
We just hit the 20-minute mark. We've had 3 dragons. We've had a whole lot of bloodshed here, Deficio. Let's take a look at how that last fight went down.
Right, so notice how H2K is looking for Febiven. Even the ulti from loulex here is onto him. Shen ulti comes in. Wave is already at the tier 2 tower, and all of them are looking at Febiven, trying to get him. Steelback is left on his own. There is no focus on him. And all the damage is on right now to the tanks or Febiven if they can. Ulti from Ryu completely missed. Trying to catch Febiven when he distortioned in. And therefore Fnatic wins the fight. And the thing is, H2K didn't have to take this fight. That's the worst part of it. They could have just kept Odoamne top lane to push down the tower and try and trade that one for the dragon and simply have these 4 guys back away. As soon as Fnatic starts the dragon, the rest of H2K just backs away. So it's good enough. Your 5 guys here, you started because you had to, because we were 4 people there. We split pushing. We try and take your tower. You get that dragon. We wait for late game. They didn't have to fight here. And they just gave 5 kills over to Fnatic.
Mistakes were made. And as a result, Fnatic find themselves up in maybe not a comfortable lead, but a decent one as we get into this later stage of the mid-game. Fnatic still leading the fan vote, but by a significantly lower margin than we saw last game.
Just want to talk about what H2K did right here. You saw them place 2 wards, one deep inside the Baron pit and one just outside around the edge. That's so Fnatic has to invest either 2 pink wards, one inside the Baron to clear the ward and then one outside to get the one just outside, or at least use the sweeper. A lot of teams forget to do it. They put the pink inside the Baron, clear 1 ward, I think that's enough, and then they don't see the ward just around the corner here. And the reason H2K does it is because Fnatic is known for taking early Barons. If you don't have any wards there, they will start it. 22 minutes in, 23 minutes in, it doesn't matter. They're going to go for it. If you don't see it happening, you give up a very early and an easy dragon, Baron. I keep calling it dragon for some reason. To Fnatic.
We've been seeing quite a lot of that.
And you can see Fnatic already. Moving into wards, they start setting up. Let's see if they can clear both the wards.
But this is the thing, too. Not only do they have this power spike that's available to them and the lead, but you know that that's their profile, and they're trying to use it to their advantage, attempting to bait out H2K.
And they did against H2K in week 9.
And it worked.
And it worked.
This time around, H2K, they do seem to have learned their lesson. They've kept some of their wards still alive here in and around the pit. And as a result, they're not fooled by this one. So Fnatic are going to need to come up with some new tricks, but if H2K give up a Baron at this point of the game, it could be very disastrous for H2K, who are now rushing up the middle.
H2K doesn't have to make plays right now. They can wait. You're already having at least kills on Rio in the mid lane. You want your Jinx to be a lot stronger. Now you're allowing Fnatic to potentially get a flank on you. Look at Huni and his positioning on the minimap.
Smite's down. They're trying to focus Hjarnan, or at least Reignover is. But I don't think they have enough of them there. Hjarnan will get the Lantern out. Huni's slowed down. He does connect the Sonic Wave. Doesn't look like he's interested in going in. So H2K, they get out, but I agree, that did seem a little bit unnecessary for the amount of damage they got on the tower. They really didn't get much.
Just a risky situation. They were trying to force Febiven to recall from the top lane as he showed himself and then back away as soon as he
they did get that.
Got back to basic. That did work for them. Now pick up the wave. Huni again is going full tank on Lee Sin, trying to stack as much HP as possible to get his
Fnatic?
Yeah, okay, so they cleared the ward outside.
Oh, but they didn't get the one in.
Didn't get the one inside. This is the early dragon.
Odoamne is coming in. He gets the taunt off. Not quite joined by his team. Baron gets taken down by Reignover. Will H2K be able to fight this one out? Fnatic, they are trapping them into an edge. Flash used by Hjarnan. loulex going down. Steelback picking that one up. No resonating strike used by Huni. So they get off with 2 deaths so far. Fnatic still looking to collapse though. Huni moves in on Odoamne. In comes Febiven. A whole hell of a lot of damage. And Huni being chased back. They get even more picks. Shutdown gold, however, goes over to Hjarnan. He's managing to pick up another as he picks off Huni. But still, Fnatic have found themselves a number of kills there after the Baron. They do give up 2 for it.
Yeah, and H2K had a ward on that Baron here, and Fnatic still so they might have to just do like a 1-4 setup instead, where Febiven stays with the team after this push here down towards the tower. So they won't really be able to completely take over the map, but it's still a very good tool to try and get some towers down. When you got a Blood Boil AD carry, you don't need a lot of time, especially not when he has 5 kills.
And a Ghost Blade.
Can even pop a Ghost Blade and the tower is dead.
So with that said, we'll see what Fnatic can do with this timing window of theirs. Clock ticks at 25 minutes, or just shy of it, as Dragon looks to come off of cooldown. Fnatic would look to secure their 3rd if they're able to take this one. H2K, they are moving towards the bottom side. They're not keen on letting them get away with it. loulex joining Hjarnan and KaSing here as they rove through the jungle. The rest of Fnatic, though, this looks like this could be a head-to-head. They do meet up directly there. Don't think it's going to happen just yet, though.
No flash for Hjarnan in this fight, so look for both Febiven and Huni to try and dive him in that back line here. It's super risky for H2K if they want to fight for this one. There's still Baron buff on Steelback.
Yeah, I think
from Fnatic.
The right move is to give it up here, but they may not even have that choice. There we go. Dragon goes down. Fnatic secures it, and H2K just kind of gets out by the skin of their teeth.
I think they were just testing how many of Fnatic guys were at the Dragon. But because there's no Baron buff again on Febiven and Huni, there's less effect in doing their split push. So you can see how Fnatic's now pinging down the bottom side. You need Steelback there with the minion wave to buff them up, or Reignover or YellowStar in this case. So they go 5 together, as we talked about. Trying to see if they can get at least a few seconds on the tower for Steelback. He has flash and dash and everything. Let him get a few hits.
Does indeed get a few. Rest of H2K has come though. Wave has been depleted. They have forced them back for now, but there's another wave at their back.
Decent wave through static shift on Jinx. And Rio obviously killing the waves. Like, we'll get a bit of damage. Can't really go for the tower dive here. You need to get a pick first. Janna with no flash is gonna be the obvious target. For now, Fnatic has to back away. And that's obviously again because they didn't get Baron buff on Huni and Febiven after the fight.
They'll change their attention though to the mid right now. Actually just continuing to rove up. They might actually hit all the way to the top. So Fnatic, again, they've still got a little bit of time. Febiven, Huni, yeah, neither of them possess this Baron buff, so it'll be a little bit slower going to clear the mini waves away. But Febiven's still able to make short work of them. The question is, What do Fnatic attempt to push next? H2K has successfully made a defense.
Seeing as the mid lane has no tier 2 tower, you gotta aim for bot or the top lane. They don't really have a pushing threat because there's no Tiamat or Brutalizer on Huni, which is a bit strange. Normally what we always see on top lane Lee Sins. A few times we do see it, but in terms of solo queue, Brutalizer is fantastic on it. But what Huni's doing is just trying to get as much efficiency from this Cinderhulk. That's why he's just stacking so much HP, building full tank. But that does mean he's not doing a whole lot if he's left in a side lane. Fnatic can still go 5 members down to the bottom lane, and all you need is one misplay from H2K and you get a pick on them, and then you get that tower. You don't have to split up in a 1-4 setup for them or 1-3-1. You don't have to necessarily do it, but it is also a viable option, seeing as Febiven is super strong on LeBlanc. Nobody can hold him on his own. So if he pushes in the bottom lane, if Steelback pushes in the mid lane, and then Huni just goes even with Odoamne on the top side, you will have the pressure at least on one of the lanes. That's the bottom one. That's where you should be able to take a tower, which is what Fnatic can do. You can see Ryu and loulex is on the bottom side, waiting for Febiven here.
We'll meet him as he fades away. Fair amount of vision invested here by Fnatic on the bottom side to try and track the movements of H2K. Ryu's still there to push the waves. loulex was fighting it out with Febiven for just a moment for control of the Krugs. It's just going to be a wave clear back and forth until somebody steps out of line. Right over YellowStar, Steelback roving through this jungle to meet up with Huni. They should be able to do some serious damage to this tower. And Odoamne is actually being fired on as he gets the taunt onto Huni. He dashes back away. Again, the cavalry arrives, and Fnatic are once again pushed back.
Not the best back timing for Odoamne. He went back to base, so he couldn't do anything with the waves before they got to the tower, which opened up for Fnatic to get a few hits. But it's the same deal here. It's the 1-3-1. Huni just pushes down the wave, but goes even at least. And then you wait for lanes. He's the guy with the damage on these towers here. Or you wait for Febiven to try and get a kill on Ryu in the one-on-one. One kill for Fnatic here opens up the entire map. Because if Ryu dies in the bottom lane, then suddenly Hjarnan has to go down and defend the tower, and then the mid lane is open for Steelback. And then maybe Odoamne has to move from his lane, then suddenly top lane is open. So one kill for Fnatic is all they need to open up H2K here in either of the lanes, because they are right now stronger in them from Fnatic's side with the split push. But they're just gonna play it fairly safe, seeing as nothing really happens. H2K stays very defensive, and you still got that potential 5th dragon, which can be one of your ways of winning for Fnatic. 4th one for them is coming up in about a minute's time, minute and a half. You can wait for that one, force a teamfight around it, or just take it for free. Either works for you, and use that to end the game.
For H2K though, I feel like they are going to want to let this one drag out just a bit, and it's part of why they're not
can't do
make plays. Yeah, you're right, they can't really do that much right now, but the gold lead will mean less and less the longer the game goes. As long as they keep pushing back Fnatic without giving up any members, then it's fine for them. But should they lose somebody, the tables turn very quickly in that situation. And I feel like it's going to be very key for them to try and deny Dragon number 5. I mean, obviously you don't want to give up dragons in general, but number 4 is not going to be as bad for them. This one that's coming up in about a minute. The Baron, I would presume, would be a much bigger point of contention for both these teams.
It's also where Fnatic can force the fights. And that's why H2K is moving here. They got to clear the ping wards. They put down their own ones. Once again, they have one inside, and then they have one in the small bush here outside to spot if Fnatic is trying to sneak it like they did the first time around. But that's the thing for Fnatic. They're the ones deciding. They're the ones pulling H2K around the map. Trying to say, okay, if we start a Baron, you have to go and try and stop us, and then we get a team fight. That was a TP from Huni.
Yep.
He was standing like right out the lane.
Yeah, they're going to try to force something here. loulex takes a lot of damage, but he gets lanterned away to safety. Fnatic take control of the Baron pit completely here, clearing away the wards, or at least attempting to. There we go, another sweeper on the one. Febiven is going to have to use his flash. A little bit out of position there without his cooldowns available. Odoamne escapes the chains for now.
H2K can stay around this Baron here because the 2 side waves are pushing for them. You can see big waves being built up already, so they can stay here. There's nothing else for them to go back and defend. Reignover is splashing in.
He's gonna throw down the absolute
wow,
Ryu! A ton of damage firing him down, but they don't have enough to finish it off. Meanwhile, Rocket intercepted as Hjarnan flashes away after the fact. Monsoon to keep Fnatic healthy. Hjarnan taken down by Steelback, and Odoamne throws the taunt on him, but they're fine to chase him down. and he will fall. It's a double kill. Going over to Steelback just like that. They've taken out one damage threat, neutralized another, and now they're marching on the mid.
The Baron control from Fnatic here. They are still so strong in this game, and they use it to just force H2K into bad situations, into bad team fights. And that's how you open up the base. No need for 1-3-1 split pushing if you can get the fights. Dragon is alive, Baron is alive as well.
I think the latter is what they're going for here, Deficio. Stopping just to clear the ward away. Febiven will go back to a triple take on that one. Baron going to be begun very quickly for Fnatic, but Ryu checked too far forward and Febiven punishes him. Fnatic, that is a cherry on the top for them as they should secure this Baron, no trouble. Smited down by Huni. Fnatic now in a comfortable lead in this game too.
All H2K could do right there was try and go Dragon instead, which I think had been the better option for them, and therefore trying to deny this 5th Dragon, which will come up fairly soon for Fnatic as well. They might still be able to sneak it from them, so that's okay. You gotta be able to secure this Dragon here, otherwise it's just everything is going wrong for you.
This is a safety Drake right here, Deficio.
It is.
You don't expose anyone to harm's way.
And then Lantern out. Good.
Managed to grab that back. So let's see how this Baron control went.
Yeah, again, this is just the whole setup from Fnatic and why it's so important to have this vision control around the Baron. Ryu is being caught in the middle of everything. He's already chunked so low. He tried to time the distortion with his ulti, missed it. Hjarnan now is, but I mean, it's so hard for H2K to fight here because you can't see Fnatic when the engage happens. You don't know where they're coming from. Febiven jumped one wall, Reignover flashed another one from the blue buff, and suddenly you're completely split up. And that's just in favor of a very skirmish-focused team on Fnatic here. They're not looking for the big 5-on-5 wombo combo. They're looking to single you out with LeBlanc, with Lucian, with Lee Sin. And that's what they can do when they have full control of an area you're fighting in.
There's a snake in that brush, but I don't think Febiven's worried about it. One more hit, and it would have been Ryu taken away. A tower falls in the top side. Meanwhile, one in the bottom as well. They're just rolling on through. H2K, no waves pushing in favor of them, utilizing this Baron with the 1-3-1 right now. And H2K forced to defend on so many fronts. The KaSing alone takes down Hjarnan. Steelback has just gotten massive.
Yeah, you're pretty fed here on this Lucian. And we said in Champs League how he's good early game, he's good mid game, he's good late game. He's not the best in either of them, but he's good all around. And when you buff him with a block boy, with a Janna shield, he becomes a bit of a hyper carry towards the late game in that sense.
And they're using it perfectly now. They've taken a couple of inhibitors now on the Nexus turrets. H2K, they just can't seem to stop this one. And Fnatic, at about 35 minutes into the game, with Ryu going down to boot, are gonna even the score at 1-1.
That was the more standard Fnatic in many ways. While they did still have the Lee Sin top lane for Huni, it wasn't about 2v1ing a mid lane or all aggressive early invades. They did invade on the blue buff, that was great, but that wasn't the main focus of the composition. The main focus was lane swap, but we have a guy, a second jungler, who does the camps on one side and we invade on the enemy and take their camp with our jungler, so we both get pretty fed early on. Two members at once and just deny Odoamne everything.
Yeah.
I mean, that guy was, again, 0 ZS at 6 minutes.
They basically had 2.5 junglers because they also had Nunu, so the consume helps out quite a lot in that situation. But yeah, they especially denied Odoamne. Yes, they let him get back involved in the game. But after that, Fnatic, they took a bit of an early lead. Then they took the mid game as far as they possibly could, and they never let H2K dig themselves out of that hole.
H2K had one good play. That was around the mid lane where YellowStar didn't have to flash in and like pull back Ryu or anything. They could honestly just take in tower. Once they went for the dive, that's where H2K responded. They got 2 towers for it. They were suddenly ahead in gold. And then it felt like they were maybe a little bit too confident. They could keep fighting, and they started contesting dragons, despite still being so much weaker in terms of compositions.
Yeah, and then gave Fnatic.
And then they gave Fnatic just so many kills, which they used to get 2 barons. They used it to obviously get close towards the 5 dragons. Not really going to be the case in this sense. But just force these team fights here where you have to walk blind into a composition with so much burst potential. That's never going to work.
Well, and yeah, burst potential I think is definitely the way to put it at the very end there. I mean, not only did we touch on Steelback just having absolutely massive game. He ended at 8-1 in 4. He was able to take out Hjarnan with just a culling at the end, we saw. But then Febiven, I mean, it was Ryu the one waiting in the brush and try and pick him off or do something to him, but Febiven just nearly 2-shots him at that point. That just speaks volumes about how far ahead they managed to get in their mid-game.
It just shows again how good a comp like this is, even in double tank metas, because you can snowball the early game so hard. Yeah, okay, they had Lee Sin, Nunu, so they had double tank in their setup, but that was not the main thing about the composition. It was how strong can LeBlanc and Lucian be in the early to mid game and use that to win out.
Yeah, and they indeed made it happen. So for a deeper look into Fnatic's win to bring the series back to 1-1, we're going to